All right, welcome back, everyone. Here we are for round 2 of Beckett's foray into the MtGO 7-point Highlander tournament that's being run at the moment. So you won round 1 against Rajdeep, and how are you feeling here? What are you facing down? Do you know?
I got the round 1 jitters out of the way, and I'm ready to start getting into, the heart of the tournament. But it's scary. I mean, it's an interstate meta. I've, obviously with COVID, been practicing mainly against Adelaide metas, and I'm really, really excited to test my mettle against interstate decks and see where I line up. But this is a great opening hand, of course.
You got Dorking into like the 3-dropping clique, plus some cheap interaction and filtering. Get the info out of Probe as well.
Absolutely.
So get the read on their deck straight away. Whoop. Sorry, it's my computer. Let's try again. Just keep going. I just lost. I had a black screen for a minute.
And so, interestingly, they've got Trop Nothing, and I've got Trop Pilgrim, and it just feels like such a stark difference.
Yeah.
Just even if it gets dealt with, even if they untap and, I don't know, Dreadbore it or something, whatever they've got, I just feel ahead because I've done something on my turn 1.
Well, it's not just that. It's like, well, Sarv characterized it recently in terms of, you ask the question like, do you have it? In terms of, do you have the answer? Like the misstep, the removal. Because if you don't, like he normally reserves that expression for like unfair magic. Do you have it? If you don't, I'm virtually win the game. And that's kind of how Sarv sees Mana Elves in terms of having that Mox Emerald in play.
Absolutely.
So here you're seeing the hand.
Yeah, and I didn't probe turn 1 because I think this is the critical turn. I was always going to Pilgrim no matter what, even if they had misstep, even if they had Lightning Bolt, even if whatever, I was always going to just Pilgrim anyway. There's nothing that punishes Pilgrim. There's stuff that parodies it, but nothing that punishes it. But now I probe because now I've got a decision. Do I Clique or do I Goif Spell Pierce or do I just feign a different kind of counter spell or Spell Seeker? So now I've got a few decisions. It's important.
They had Ren and 6, Mana Drain, Spell
Snare, yep.
Spell Snare, okay. So you're baiting out the Snare or the...
Well, I've got a Spell Pierce here.
We're baiting out, yeah.
And I know that I feel pretty good because whatever they do, I can counter it and I can resolve my Goif. And I think Goif's phenomenal against their hand because it beats the Ren and 6 and it beats the counter spells once it's on the board. This does let them Ren and 6 ping my Pilgrim, but then the Goif will kill the Ren and 6. So trading a Pilgrim for a Ren and 6, you can see, as I said, we're talking about that parity. Sure, Ren and 6, I guess, crushes the Pilgrim, but not now that Goif's around. So the Pilgrims just feels always correct.
Yeah, and like if you hadn't had the probe, that could have turned out quite differently. You might have done an end of turn clique, although they might have jammed Ren and 6 main phase.
Well, my opponent, now that I'm looking at it, could have played Ren and 6 ping the Pilgrim, right?
They probably wanted to hold up Mana Drain or evasive action.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know about that. I guess that's the difference between proactive and reactive, right?
It's probably the fetch land they had. They probably didn't. They only had Mush.
They had Tiger in hand, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, I think maybe they should have cast Ren and 6 there, followed my principle of being proactive, and then once you've got your threat out,
then lean back a bit.
Then you lean back a bit.
Yeah, well, that's like the fish kind of mentality or tempo mentality.
And now I've got a pretty big decision because they've got Mana Drain and evasive action, and they can untap. And Ren isn't brutal, but because I miss my land drop, I sort of don't really want them to resolve it.
It's interesting, like thinking about the Ren and 6, like I probably would have jammed it, but sometimes you're scared of tapping out. If your opponent's going to untap with 3 mana,
but they'd be killing the Pilgrim.
I know, I would have done it, but there's the threat of Oko to Fairy, these brutal cards that kind of shut you down. That's just the fear. You should still play it, but
you're saying like a Force of Will, untap Oko is game over.
Well, that's a possibility, yeah. Or Teferi, given that other cards are counter magic.
But I mean, obviously, what I did, which was Goif Pierce, is just as brutal as would be, Goif Snare or something like that.
Yeah. Having the threat is really strong.
So I'm going draw step clique. I'm actually usually don't draw step clique. I find it a bit cliche. I think it's a bit cute.
It's not because it's cliche.
It is cliche.
That's not why you don't do it, though. You're not trying to be different.
No, I think people draw step Clique because they think that's what you do with Clique. But I think at its best, Clique is a end-of-turn threat, just like a fact or fiction.
Yeah, but you weren't holding up. You had no other options that turn.
Well,
realistically.
There's no point playing Clique if I'm not going to sink Ren at 6. So I might as well do it draw step.
Okay, yeah.
All right? And if they mana drain it, that's fine because then they've tapped Triome and Trop. And then they've got Tiger and a whole bunch of colourless mana, which they can't really... Because mana drain is best when you can supplement it with the coloured mana that you're using already.
So they just let it resolve. They didn't counter it.
Correct, yeah. And I think that's fine.
But now that it's not fine because you've got 2 counter spells and you're facing down 6 damage or something.
I suppose.
You got to stop. You got to just protect your life total at some point.
Well, they probably see me as a hard control deck, and this is going back to what I said from round 1 that I'm actually can win games with tempo.
Yeah.
And once again, there's no point just playing a spell seeker into their mana drain. I know their hand's Hull Breacher, mana drain, evasive action, and they ripped Foff off the Clique, which is a good one.
It is good, but again, it doesn't impact the board at all.
Yeah. True. And I have to brainstorm here because they've got Hull Breacher in hand. So I can't do a main phase Hull. I want to brainstorm
at some point
while they're tapped out.
Yeah.
And I don't find any lands, but I do have a way to shuffle with Spellseeker. Although Spellseeker loses to mana drain pretty hard.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The Coatl here you can't play because of the Pilgrim. It's annoying.
So their hands evasive action.
No, that's the pile.
Yeah, but their hands evasive action mana drain, and I think counterspells are really bad here because I've won the board. Counterspells are good at stopping your opponent winning the board, but once the board's won, they're bad. So the best card here is Oko by far. Dak Faden's nothing.
Doesn't affect the board.
Doesn't affect the board at all. So I give them the worst card and the Oko, and I give them lands and bad cards. They chose Dak. I
suppose you couldn't go Oko 4 because Dak with lots of cards in hand's okay or something.
I guess so. Yeah, Dak's better with the more cards, but generally it's not good. And I know they can't cast 2/3 drops here because they've got 5 mana.
Yeah, it's effectively dead.
Yeah, especially so going Oko with a counterspell backup is quite good here.
But again, unlike a card like Balance or some other powerful kind of
unfair card,
some card that gets you back in the game, Oko when you're significantly behind on the board isn't going to do it. I don't think. If you're just a little bit behind, it's fine, or if you're at parity, it's excellent. But that's something I've discovered about Oko. Like, there's a lot of talk about how broken it is, but if you're behind on board like this, it may not be enough.
Well, creatures have always been and always will be good against planeswalkers. And playing a planeswalker into an empty board is where you want to be, not playing it into a bunch of creatures. And as good as Oko is, it's still not going to crush what the fundamentals of Magic being creatures beat planeswalkers.
You need Ugin 8 for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And here they go Dak over Oko, and I was really expecting Oko. But I figure they've got Hull Breacher in hand. So their logic is, if I don't kill the Dak, they can go Hull Breacher, target me, make 2 treasures, discard 2 cards.
Yeah, well they'll be on 3 life or something by the time they get to do that. They could also be digging for some other kind of out, but I don't know what that would be. Because when you're playing these 4 colours, like, you're kind of confined to kind of incremental advantages.
And I haven't been able to play proactive spells like Spellseeker and stuff because of the mana drain, but keep in mind they've had to keep up 2 mana all game.
Yeah, you've been
taxing to stop me from doing that. So and again, I've already won the board, so it's not so bad. And I've got a really key decision here. The Hull Breacher Dak is terrifying because it only costs them 1 mana because they get 2 treasures out of it.
Yeah, true.
Which means they can go Hull Breacher for 1 and Oko and keep up a counterspell, which is really scary. And I have to discard 2 cards. But on the flip side, if I swing them, my Goif's a 3/4. If I swing them, they go to 3.
Mm-hmm. And Coatl's a cheeky bit of damage as well.
Especially with Hierarch. If I swing Pilgrim, they go to 2, and Coatl end step, untap, Hierarch is lethal. Even if they sweep the board.
No, but you wouldn't have enough mana to do collateral
True.
rock, but if you ripped a land, but
I think
you know
we know
top,
Titania's on top.
Yeah. Are you thinking about? Oh, you can't just jam Oko because of drain. So you can't give them drain mana.
No.
I was thinking you would have to attack, but you're just thinking what to attack.
Yeah, I'm thinking about whether or not I want to hit the deck because discarding 2 cards and giving them 2 treasures is massive, right?
Yeah, and they can. You don't want to. They can stabilize on 9, so I think they're going to see a lot more cards with Dark. Oh, they won't see the cards if they're discarding yours. So yeah, you are tanking a bit, but you got 34 minutes left, so it's okay. All right, so how far?
Yeah, I'm going for it.
Going for face.
Yeah, and I think
that's a good call. I mean, it's hard to stabilize on 2 life.
It is. It's scary. It's a scary thing for me to do because you'll kick yourself if they untap and stabilize and they've got 2 planeswalkers and you're like, why didn't I just kill the deck? But, even with me discarding 2 cards, even with them playing a Hull Breacher and an Oko, I've still got lethal.
You've still got the Cleek.
I've still got Cleek with Flyer and Swing. If they Oko the Cleek, the
Ghost Big.
It's still lethal either way.
Yeah.
So,
when
as scary as it is, I'll play to what I know. I know the majority of their hand. Yeah. Let's just play for the win.
That's something they haven't had this game. They don't know what's in your hand. So you've got a big informational advantage there. So they're upticking on them.
Yeah, and I was really surprised by that. They're obviously digging. I mean,
maybe they're digging for Toxic Deluge or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They might have seen my line, which is the Hull Breacher line, and just opted not to do it. Although Narset here, I don't know.
That's another card. Well, there's another card that doesn't affect the board. It's just another Duck Faden.
That's right. I'm really happy to see it because it digs for something. It is. It's another Duck Faden.
They don't have any sweepers or anything like that. So I think
Deluge doesn't do it anyway.
No. So that's game over. They've conceded there.
And I won that game with 2 lands.
And
again, a lot of people look at my list, see Shark Typhoon, see Fractured Identity, see Mana Leak, and consider myself a hard control deck.
So tell us about the sideboarding. You've started here. So it's Carpet, Veil, Submerge.
Yep. Submerge is just always good because I see it like a Swords to Plowshares. I never cut a Swords, basically, even against control, because there's always a good target for it. Submerge is the same.
You do cut Path?
Absolutely, yep. Because Path gives them mana. But Swords is just so efficient and so good.
You didn't see any creatures that game, did you, on their deck?
No.
No, you have to assume they got about... My average decks like that have about 10 or whatever.
And I saw 3 Planeswalkers, right? Ren... Oh, I saw 4. I saw Ren, Oko, Narset, Dak.
So Dovin's Veto is good against those cards.
Yeah, that's right. And I saw a whole bunch of counter spells.
And the Mystical... What's that? Mystical Dispute, is that the name?
Mystical Dispute.
I've never played that. How do you find it?
Really good. Yeah, really, really good.
Is it just because you don't have red that you play it?
I think I would play it over Red Element. Oh, maybe. That's a good question, actually. I'll probably play all 3. Probably play Reb and Mystical and Pyro. It's really good.
And Veil.
It's also 3 mana leak.
So taking out Remand, that's interesting.
Yeah. I think I just want to cut on...
I suppose Dovin's Veto is just a bit of an upgrade.
I think I want to cut on counterspell. Yeah, Dovin's Veto is an upgrade. I think I want to cut on counterspells and up on...
What about back to basics? Are you tempted there?
Yep, I am tempted.
Yeah.
I didn't see any dorks. I think the amount of counterspells I saw, they're on Catch Pile, because there's a lot of 4-color lists, and some of them run dorks, some of them run, Yidris, some of them run Birthing Pod, and this is... I saw a lot of counters. This looks like Kespile splashing green. And if it's Kespile splashing green, there's no dorks. That means back to basics is good.
You saw a lot of counter magic too, and Factual Fiction, and big spells like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Palace Jailer, you're hovering over as well.
Well, there's not many creatures, all right? It's not a creature deck. It's a hard control deck.
Yeah, so that's bad in the sense that you don't get the removal, but it's good in the sense that they can't get the Monarch back.
It is, yeah. That's right.
So these are the path coming out.
That's right. Back to basics.
Days. I suppose Days is like you've kept Days in on the draw.
Yeah. I often cut Days on the draw.
Fracture Identity is good against walkers, so you got to keep that.
I mean, I wasn't too happy about cutting Palace out. It's fine, but
you should probably think about the double pip cards if you bring him back to basics. Like,
very good point.
Because they're double white, double green gets a bit harder.
That's why I did it.
Yeah.
That's why I did it.
Yeah. That's what I have to think about if I bring him back to basics. I take out like Gideon of the Trials and things like that. All right. So that's
what do you think of this hand?
Oh, it's a risky. You keep it, yeah, because you got the probe to see an extra card. You got the carpet.
Draw. Yeah.
You got Carpet of Flowers to know that you'll get.
I'm
some
just
mana.
really hoping I see a island, which I do.
Yeah, and I suppose if they play an island, then you can play the coaddle.
I think they have to play an island at some point. Yeah. Even if they know about carpet, they can play fetch around it for a while. But eventually, I'm going to get a carpet trigger.
Yep.
And this time, I want to make sure my carpet's going to resolve. There's not much I can do regardless, but
again, you got probe for the information.
Yeah.
So Abrupt Decay, Creeping Tarpet, Wheel of Fortune,
Sylvan Library, Hymn to Turak, which in a 4-color deck it's really hard to do.
And they've got Submerge as well.
I was saying to Drew, I was saying to you earlier that these 4-color decks have got the fetches. They can do a Hymn to Turak, but it's really hard for them to orchestrate the Hymn to Turak turn 2 and the Ren and 6 or and the Assassin's Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for them to accommodate all of those pips.
So they've gone Preordained turn 1 there. I would have gone Creeping Tarpet just so I could have had 2 mana on the.
Yeah,
I could have gone like Sylvan Library turn 2.
They might. Did they have that? Yeah, they had the Tarpet. Well, they might have drawn the Tarpet of the Preordained though.
True. Yeah. Fair enough. They might have kept the 1 lander with Preordained Sylvan Library.
But I found my land off the probe, and now I get to go to Fairy. And unless they rip something, I know that it's going to resolve. But one thing I didn't account for is Abrupt Decay. And I think in hindsight, I probably should have just tried to draw a card.
I'll just draw for nothing.
Because I feel like they're going to Abrupt Decay. They don't have anything else other than Abrupt Decay regardless, right?
So you knew they had Abrupt Decay in their hand?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you should have drawn a card, yeah. But at least you forced them to use it. But, yeah, they would have used it anyway.
That's right. So I think I should have done that. But it's not the end of the world,
worse, they could have Abrupt Decayed your carpet and really put you in a tight spot as well.
That's a good point. Yeah, Abrupt Decay on carpet's pretty strong.
But they don't know that because they haven't seen your hand yet. That's when you want misdirection, but it wouldn't have helped there. But.
Well, I can't force it.
No. All right, well, you've lost a card, but you ripped a land there. So now you've got... Creeping Tarpet at least plays around the carpet a little bit. So you've got 4 mana now. So you go Scoo's Ice Fang or... Yeah,
I think Scoo's keeping up Ice Fang and keeping up Swords is pretty good. And I tap the Palette Fountain there just for green if I need to eat things. I think there's a good chance they're on Treasure Cruise or something like that. Or Tasiga.
Yeah, well, they could just jam Euro and you can eat it.
Yep.
And you've got having Force of Negation here is a good option in case they jam a really good Planeswalker or something like Oko.
And I know they've got Submerged, so I don't think I can aggro them. So this is a really big decision because Sylvan Library is pretty good in the control mirror. It's bad if I've got an aggressive hand and I can pressure them. But I know he's got Submerged, so I know I'm going to lose a lot of pressure, which makes me really tempted to force this.
And you know that he could Submerge in response to your fetch as well.
Yep.
To get rid of the Scoos forever.
Yeah. And I'm not so worried about that. I think submerging, even if I top deck, is pretty good. So I'm really, really tempted. But I let it resolve. It's an iffy decision. It's an iffy decision, to be honest, because, as I said, the Sylvan Library is going to be pretty strong. But I'm trusting that my deck's got enough aggressive capabilities.
So they could Submerge right here in response to the fetch, but they don't. So that's risky, because now that you're going to face him down, not Submerging there means you're facing down Scoos, which is not only bashing in, reducing your life total and therefore ability to use Sylvan Library. It's pressuring your walkers if you play any. It's interfering with your graveyard.
Although the Sylvan makes the Wheel of Fortune not great. And I'm playing Kodal there just honestly for the damage. I really want to draw blue for the force, but because, as I said before, damage trumps Sylvan Library.
You really want to draw a land as well for Titania.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damage trumps Sylvan Library, which is why the Submerge there would have been really good on the Scoos.
I think it would have been good, but to be honest, I think Submerging in combat here is fine as well.
Yeah, well then you replay it, but I know what you mean. Because it could have functioned as removal, whereas now it's just functioning as tempo.
Yeah, I'll pay that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you did draw a land, so you can now think about Titania.
Well, I was actually able to Titania anyway because they've got a triumph.
Oh, sorry,
so
2 arms. Yep.
Yeah. But I get to keep up swords here, which is nice. And obviously, Force of Negation would be, if I had the blue card for Force of Negation, forcing this Submerge would be phenomenal. So I'm kind of regretting playing the Codal.
Although, yeah, you wouldn't have drawn into the land, but that's okay. You didn't need it.
But yeah, like I get a land drop here, and I'm just going to be able to replay Titania next turn.
Having the land drop's good because you can keep up green for like any. You can
exactly. Yeah. But I think there's a good position. I've kept my pressure, which means their Sylvan Library isn't crushing. It's still good, but it's not crushing. Their Wheel of Fortune is pretty much switched off. They can hint to Turek my hand. I don't care because the card I really want is on top. And I've still got a bit of value in the sense that I hit my land drops.
What's the card on top?
Titania.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, it's submerged. Yeah. All right. So they submerge in response to the trigger, so you don't get the creature. Okay.
And that's good, but Submergers, as I said, I sided in against them, and they're on hard control. I think you just got to respect. Submerge is always really good. It's pretty hard to play around it.
Yeah, it's like days and
that's right.
Misstep. You can't really play around them.
That's right.
You can play around days, but
it's gone now. And they paid, I think, 4 life there for the library. And I would have probably done the same. I would pay 4 life. I wouldn't pay 8. But you can already see the pressure.
Yeah, you're not up on cards. You're just at card parity.
That's right. That's right. The pressure that, you don't need to do a heap to make Sylvan Library bad.
It's not something
I've just got 3 power.
Yeah, it's not something you think about often. Like, I've got to pay 8 life to get card advantage out of Sylvan Library.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just getting card quality, and which is still good, but
it's not crushing.
No.
And
it's like
just to note, I fetch here because I don't have any other fetches in my bin. So there's no point playing Titania, keeping up that fetch land to get 2 guys because I want the ETB effect. So this, I guess, gets me an extra land, but it doesn't play well against spot removal.
Could have thinned your deck a little bit as well, but
yeah. And to be honest, I can use that mana. I've got a Scoos, I've got a Loot Tree. I could convert the Force into a hard cast spell once I get to a certain amount of mana.
Yeah, see, okay. So they're just on Wheel of Fortune. Oh, on 3 unknowns?
Yeah, they got unknowns. And of course they paid life for something. So we already knew about him, but they paid life for something. So I'm assuming they've got something decent.
Counterspell, given the nature of their deck?
I'm surprised they didn't counterspell there. Okay, Brazen Burrow. So another bounce spell, so I get the advantage.
But yeah, you're only effectively paying 3 mana because of the carpet.
But looking at me casting Titania there, I assumed they had a counterspell, and they didn't. But I was still happy to jam it because that makes the board I currently have better. If they're countering my Titania, sure, it's annoying, but I'm still able to pressure, and they still have to find an answer for what I'm doing right now.
You're in a low life total as well, actually.
Yeah, and they haven't hit me either. So I get Loot Tree there.
Some more damage.
More damage, and I'm still keeping up Force of Negation.
Yeah, I like the forces with Loot Tree. You can keep up interaction.
And I just really respect the board presence.
Yeah, I mean, 3 a turn. I mean, if you look at those creatures, they look flimsy, little small, but 3 turns is real. You're going to die.
It's phenomenally real when all my opponent's doing is countering my Titania.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Clique does 3.
And how can you criticize that? How can you criticize whatever mana leak Titania? You can't. It's a great interaction. You're ahead. You can't let it resolve. But I think that's what you want to be doing in this meta right now, is just win the board presence battle.
Well, in this meta or just always? Yeah.
The more Magic I play, the more I want to win the board, no matter what archetype I am.
Yeah. Here's a way to win the board with Oko.
Yep.
So they can play 2 spells with Oko, and oh no, they've only got 2 mana. They can't Brazen Borrower.
So it's a tempting one to force a negation, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll naturally snap it off. Yeah. Although they could have a 2 mana counter spell to back it up. They've only got 2 unknown cards.
Well, spoilers, I don't force it, and here's why. I just think I can beat the Oko. And going, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to throw Sarv under the bus if he would be like, no, I would have forced it. But Sarv's logic...
I would have forced it.
Sarv's logic of tempo is counter the spell that actually beats what you're doing. You know, don't counter the dig through time. Counter the thing that actually affects you. And I just feel like what is on the board right now, I can beat. I can beat this Oko with what I've got in my hand and on the board. So I might as well let it resolve and then force the thing that actually affects the board.
Yeah, so why...
Because I can Titania here with force backup.
Okay.
So I'm able to go... Yeah. So if they counter this, I'm able to go force, and then I've got 2 5/3s. And if they turn Titania into a 3/3, whatever.
You've still got the 5/3s, yeah. I mean, the Oko lets them gain 3 life a turn to negate the attackers you used to have, but it doesn't negate the Titania.
It does, yeah, but the Titania is going to...
It just generates too much power.
Way too much power. I mean, that's what Titania does. Titania puts way too much power on the field, which trumps Oko. One thing I am scared of is, I guess, trading food, neg 5 Oko. Trade a food for a Scoos.
Yeah.
And there's no creatures in the bin whatsoever.
Okay, so it's not going to get out of hand like big.
Correct. Yeah. And I haven't... you can see how mana efficient I've been. I've hardly exiled... I think I've exiled 0 cards. I haven't at no point had a spare green mana up, even through the Carpet of Flowers. So you can see how much work Carpet of Flowers is doing, you know, even at this late stage in the game. Don't quote me on it. You know, I'm sure maybe there was a time where I could have fetched and found another green, but I'm pretty confident I haven't had heaps of mana up to just exile their whole bin, and it's just a testament to how mana efficient you are and how useful Carpet is.
Excuse me.
Once again, like going back to game 1, I mean, I could have swung the DAC, and I'm sure I'd kick myself if I didn't swing the DAC and I lost and they stabilized because of the DAC. And you're like, I could have killed this thing. But just opting to be more aggressive.
So yeah, so the logical extension, if you let the Oko resolve, then you can't just then attack it. You need to go attack face,
Correct.
Which is what you've done. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm presenting lethal here, right? They're on 8 life. I've got 10 power on the board, just in Titania token, and then. Yeah, so I've got 13 power on the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I play Loot Tree, 16 power on the board.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to do something phenomenal here to stabilise. And Oko, as good as it is, doesn't do it by itself.
No. Now the main cards I go to win in positions like these are like Price of Progress if you're aggro, Emrakul 13 usually is enough, and Balance as well, but...
That's right. That's exactly right.
There's not many cards that do it.
You need to do something crazy good. And this is not crazy good, but it interacts with what I'm doing. It interacts because they can make a 4/3 now and block. So that actually stops me winning, right?
Yeah. Another way you can win is combo out. So they could Oracle, Oracle.
Very true.
But you haven't seen any indication that they've got that. Wheel of Fortune's kind of just sitting dead in hand.
Well, it is because it doesn't go well with the Sylvan Library, does it?
No.
And so, yeah, like I have to force the stomp because that deals with what I'm doing.
So was it stomp on the Scoos?
Stomp on Scoos.
You
And then they can
damage.
replay it, trade with Titania, and I get in for 6.
So you got a Leo coming down. So you're targeting the graveyard before the Leo comes into play, so they don't get a trigger off of that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm pretty confident that they won't draw. I think it's if I target them or permanent they control. So targeting the graveyard won't do it.
No, so if it's target card in a graveyard, it won't do it.
But they're tapped out anyway. So.
Yeah. But yeah, if you do Scrabbling Claws, that's target player, so that will trigger Leopold. But so what's your thought here in terms of hitting the graveyard, just so they don't snapcast?
I just hit Submerge. I think you can Kess Submerge.
You can definitely JVP it.
Yeah, and it's 0. I mean, with the Kess, so I think that's pretty strong.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just the best thing they got. Still, there's no critters in the bin. I'm pretty
Decay.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good enough against Titania. Yeah, nickel and diming your way out of this kind of spot when you're quite far behind. It's hard. Like, I mean, you can do it, but
and so Oko goes up on Titania, but at this stage, I've already got my 5/3.
Just saves you 2 life.
Yeah.
JVP is good for you. You don't have much in the bin for it.
Well, JVP significantly reduces their ability to stabilize after. If they survive this initial push, which once again it's not looking good, JVP
gives you some follow up.
Yeah. You know, not this turn, but the next turn. So it's not a land, right?
No, exactly. And if you draw a land next turn, it converts that into something better.
Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Although lands are good when you got Titania, but even if you lose Titania.
Yeah. So the same logic as last time. They actually can prevent lethal here, but I just alpha strike them. Don't respect the Oko at all. They have to block with Leovold, so the Leovold just does nothing.
What?
Also, a cool little interaction we might have missed. Carpet of Flowers targets your opponent. So they actually drew off my Carpet of Flowers, and I wasn't able to stop it. It was a forced interaction. Even if I not to put the mana in my pool, they still draw, which I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, have missed in the past.
Yeah, that's cool. Are you forced to remember that now when you face your next Leo in paper? Yeah.
They've got 2 life, and they've had Oko out for 3 turns now.
What has Oko done? Got him a food?
It made a food, which they gained life, and it turned Titania. So it gained them 5 life, essentially, right?
For 3 mana.
For 3 mana. And they've got it here, so I don't know. They can gain another 3 life, right? So gain 8 life.
No, you wouldn't play that. Gain 8 life for 3 mana.
No. Although I think instead of eating their food, they probably should have -5 swapped and stolen my scoos.
Yeah.
Which would have been better.
Yeah. Okay, so here comes the wheel. It's kind of the prayer.
Yeah. And I'm tempted to Lutra here just to get an extra swing around.
For sure.
But I've already got lethal. They've only got 3 mana.
So you want to hold up mana in case you draw lots of counter spells?
I'm pretty sure if sweep is the only thing that does it, right? Or something like a lingering souls. They're not playing white, but do you know what I mean? Like something that generates multiple blockers. So I don't actually think a random 3/2 does it. The other important thing is Lutri in the bin now gives me full power for scoos.
Nice.
So they can't steal my scoos. I can eat it. And they can't steal it with Oko.
Okay.
And I just draw Dovin's Veto, Click, Acol, Shark Typhoon.
Oh, Shark Typhoon, this spot is so sweet.
I mean, this is the perfect 7, right? Maybe another counter spell, but
yeah,
you can't get much better than that as far as a wheel goes with heaps of mana up.
Yeah. No, it's looking good for the hero, but you just had the damage on board, didn't you? And they couldn't deal with it. They didn't have the removal.
Need to follow it up with lightning bolts or anything like that. I'm able to just play patiently and make decisions based on my hand. Make that decision. No, I don't need to counter Oko. My hand beats Oko. My board beats Oko. Yeah, it's a point, but who cares? It's just an Oko.
So what did you end up? So you chose not to counter Oko. Did you? So that you kept the force that helped resolve the Titania. Is that right? Did you need the force?
The force countered the stomp.
Oh, okay.
Which did 2 damage.
Yeah.
So 2 damage instead of an Oko. Honey.
Yeah.
But it's relevant. Well, 4 damage in the end. But yeah.
Relevant. Bold play from Beckett. So that's 2 wins. You haven't lost the game yet. That's good. Well done. Would you make any changes to your deck? Or
yeah, but that's secret tech.
Secret tech. All right. We'll look out, people, for the next round. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time.
Thanks, guys.